All right, so I want to make a quick prediction for this fight because it's a huge fight in terms of boxing, the biggest fight of the decade, probably of this era, most definitely. Biggest fight of this era, not Pacquiao Mayweather. They took too long to make that fight. These two still undefeated and still in their prime. They're not even done boxing yet, not even close. But I'm going to take Terence Crawford over Errol Spence because people, and I need all the boxing fans, all the fans of Errol Spence to understand this. Please don't take it personally. I ain't no Spence hater. If Errol Spence fought like Terence Crawford, he would have upgraded his game. He would elevate his game. For Bud Crawford to fight like Spence, he has to dumb his game down. He has to downplay strengths and advantages that he has over Spence. I think that's obvious. People talk about Spence looking like a machine. Yeah, you're exactly right. He looks robotic and patterned, and he cannot break out of it. He uses the same approach against every single fighter. That is a recipe for disaster. Whereas with Terence Crawford, you don't know what he's going to do, what style he's going to use, and he ends up having a better read on his opponents than Errol Spence. Another huge problem for Spence. And eventually, Terence Crawford starts to use everything you do against you. He starts to see the openings, your flaws, your vulnerabilities. He's far more adaptive than Errol Spence. People get fooled by Errol Spence, and they think that he is adaptive because he increases his output towards or as the fight goes on. But he's still getting hit in those moments, and he's doing the same thing, following you and beating on you. He does not deny his opponents opportunities the way Crawford does. Crawford will adapt to you and start to deny your opportunities, then make you pay for trying to capitalize on those opportunities. Okay? Terence just seems a lot smarter. On top of that, to make it even worse, Terence has much better foot speed, better movement. He's lighter on his feet. Again, for Crawford to fight like Spence, he has to dumb his game down. Spence would have to step his game up to fight like Crawford. And many of you saw this video, and it's irrefutable. The way Sean Porter was able to reverse Spence so often. Porter just looked better against Spence than he did against Crawford. As it was, Crawford stopped Spence. But you see a massive athletic maneuverability gap, coordination gap between Spence and Crawford. Crawford is far more cerebral. Let me tell you, I believe Crawford is the smartest fighter since Floyd Mayweather Jr. And I agree with him. This is his era. He has far more finesse. Spence is not as smart of a fighter. He's always getting hit with shots. He's never really putting on display any real fine-tuned defense. He does not work angles the way Crawford does. Again, this fight is a good example. That's why Sean was able to reverse Spence so often, but he was not reversing Crawford. Crawford just kept denying him, using his foot movement and angles. So he's going to be able to dance around Spence. That's a recipe for disaster for Errol Spence. That's the worst type of opponent. And I think Spence and his team, they know that Spence is going to get beaten badly. He's going to take a lot of punishment. That's why they're talking the way they are after that press conference, where Terence Crawford said, everything I do it better than, and that's the truth. That's just the flat out truth. Everything Crawford does, he does it better than Spence. But because Spence is so much bigger, he just walks forward, follows you, and beats on you. Beat on the target, beat on the target. That's a lower IQ than what Crawford does. On top of that, Crawford is a switch hitter. Crawford, more adaptive. He starts to use your behavior against you. He gets such a good read on you. He starts to deny you your opportunities and make you pay. I always go with the cerebral fighter. Poor Errol Spence. Now, listen, Spence could win this fight, but he would have to be able to deal with Crawford's power and angles, foot speed. For 12 rounds, I don't see that happening. Spence gets hit a lot. He's not defensively sound. He's just not. He feels like getting hit is part of the job, whereas Crawford wants to make you miss and make you pay, and Crawford hits. I think Crawford hits harder. Spence got to hit you 1,000,000 times. Crawford ends up sitting you down, sometimes with one punch. If Errol Spence, now all you Spence fans, you got to admit this. If Errol Spence fought like Terence Crawford, he will have stepped his game up. But if Crawford fought like Spence, he will have dumbed his game down and given his opponents way more opportunities to beat him. But the angles that Crawford works, how light on his feet he is, Crawford is like a advanced version of Spence. Much better footwork, lighter on his feet. I feel got a little more speed. Cuts angles like a maniac. Denying opportunities. Those times Spence get hit. If he fought like Crawford, he wouldn't get hit in many of those times. Now, Crawford does not have Floyd Mayweather's defense. Nobody does. But I think it's better than Errol Spence defense. And in that press conference, I felt like I saw it all over Errol Spence's face. That Errol Spence knows. I believe Errol Spence knows that Terence Crawford is a more advanced, more skilled, talented fighter than he is. That's why Errol Spence and his team are primarily depending on Errol Spence's size. Take a bunch of shots, keep chopping him down, go to body, chop him down, take a whole bunch of punches, and just think that your bigger size by round 7, 8, 9, but can't take it no more and all this kind of stuff. No, Errol is going to find it hard to hit Crawford in much. If Errol can't stop Crawford, Crawford's going to be dancing circles around him, just like Crawford was against Sean Porter. I mean, keeping it real, Bud was dancing circles around Porter, and Porter was dancing circles around Spence. I think this is a recipe for disaster. The worst possible fighter and style Errol Spence could have gone up against. He is rolling the dice with this one. I think Bud is the most talented, smartest fighter since Floyd Mayweather, one of the all-time greats. The man is far more magical, whereas Spence is mechanical. Mechanical, no finesse. We'll see if Spence's size can help get him through this, because I think that's the only thing he has over Crawford. I question the power as it is. Compare their stoppage record. We'll see what happens.